Awesome. Here we are.
Hello, Simon.
Welcome. Welcome everybody. Anybody tuning in today, welcome to Simon on the Sofa. And so just to give you a little insight that I was introduced to Bob through an album of his called Love. And then I read an article of Bob's.
What's it called? Let the Women Lead.
Let the Women Lead, exactly. What really resonated with me is where I am as a man as well, is just really surrendering this sort of male dominance and sort of male, leading, male needing to think he knows everything, males needing to think that they have it all worked out, and actually softening and surrendering to the feminine's leadership or the feminine's guide. And then within that, I've been having my own individual experience of what it means to be guided by a woman in order for me to soften and tap into the gentleness of who I am. And that's not without losing my masculinity. It's not without me losing certain aspects of what it means to be a man, whatever that means. And that's really a little bit that inspired me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you read that. I think it's a really big topic of our times. Is like we're all seeing basically the kind of like the mess. We're all seeing the state of the world and the mess of what's playing out, and the mess of our leaders, and how basically I don't think any of us really want our leaders to be our leaders, because none of us feel them, But I think it's all about men, like where men are at, and we've been in charge for too long, and there's a lot that goes with that, but we've been living in the era of the patriarchy, and that era is very much now ending. It probably from the outside doesn't look like it's ending, because it looks like a big flipping mess. But the reason it's a big flipping mess is because it's ending. The patriarchy era is ending. That's why I'm doing the work on myself as a man, very much actually triggered by having met a really amazing woman who's my wife now, who really doesn't accept my crap as a man. She just won't let me get away with it, because she's a really full power woman. I'm working on my shit, like all the time, every day, through the day. It just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It's a mad time we're living in. I don't know about what you guys watching are experiencing, but my experience is that it is just relentless. The amount of self-work and self-inquiry I'm having to do, that I have no choice whatsoever. I don't have any choice. It's just grueling. It's quite full on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Full on. It's really.
And would you? Yeah. Are you happy to just share what that's bringing up for you? I'm happy to share what it's bringing up for me, but I'd love to hear what it's bringing up for you.
Oh man, that's a big old question, but it's a good question. What's it bringing up? For me, it's bringing up my ego as a man, and my control. That's probably fundamentally the big thing, is the control.
Right.
And the controlling of the feminine, and my wounding, where that comes from. And I recently did something called the Mankind Project.
Yeah,
which
okay.
I really highly recommend that any man out there who's watching this goes and Googles right now, or after they've watched this, the Mankind Project. It is. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
It's really, really. I've done a lot of self-development work, and I continue to do so. But out of any of it, that is the one that's really, really moving things for me. It's basically male initiation.
Yeah.
So I think that their phrase is, we take the boy and we make him into a man. And I don't know how the hell they do it, but they do it in a flipping weekend. It's really nutty. It's sort of shamanic, but it's not like hippies and feathers whatsoever. It's really like on it. I am changing from being a boy into a man, and a man is someone. So we see out in the world like versions of men in what men look like, and those versions are what are portrayed on the media and in our government. They are not very pretty models, and they're not very good models, which is why no one is voting, or people are starting to vote now actually, but they haven't been. But yeah, we need to change. We need to heal as men, and we need so that we can start to change how the world operates. Because at the moment, it seems like the men are still in charge. That's not going to change overnight. And I think what we need to do is do the work and step up. So at the moment, I'm getting a very strong internal call to step up. I'm 40 years old, and I'm a man. I'm in that part of my life, and that's what drives me. It's the urge and the calling to step up into responsibility and caretakership of the planet. And that's what a man is really being. And I'm learning that, I reckon, through the feminine. The feminine is teaching me that. My partner, my woman is teaching me that. And women all around the place that I meet are teaching me and showing me how to be a man. And what.
So in terms of like when you talk about men being, you know, when you hear out there like to be stewards or to protect the earth or to, you know, make a difference, to take responsibility of our actions and the way that we're treating the earth, that obviously brings you back to the journey to yourself, right? This like this sense of like the inner transformation creates the outer transformation. You know, if there's anything to be worked on, you can only work on yourself. Even if we want to change, you know, whoever, governments, people out there, you know, Joe Bloggs down the road, the only person we have any real ability to change is ourselves, right? And so that you're doing that work, or you're being called to step up. And what does that mean for you? Is it changing certain behaviors? Is it changing certain ways that you the words you use? What's it changing for you in terms of this step up, or what's been the effect so far?
To start with, the ability to be able to commit to one woman. Like me and my partner have this new saying. It's commitment is sexy.
Yeah.
Like commitment is sexy. It seems to me like a lot of people are struggling to stay in relationship in this time. Or I don't know a whole load of people who are like keeping a relationship solid and together. And because we're very programmed in the world to have instant fix, instant gratification, technology. Yeah, we're being sort of like very heavily programmed, and we have been for obviously centuries. Porn, you know, I think I hear that there's a really massive pornography addiction issue in men, and young men especially, because of the ready access to it just at the flick of a switch on a phone or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's making it hard for men to deal with the realness of a woman and the realness of a relationship. And the fact is, in my opinion, is that the realness of relationship is that it's hard and you have to look at your shit. Am I allowed to swear in this?
Yeah.
Good, because sometimes you need to. And I know most of us are. Maybe that's not true. Maybe a lot of us really aren't.
Maybe when you start to change yourself, you start to feel that maybe other people are doing the same, but whether they are or not is questionable. Like as you're changing now as a man and you're stepping up and you did the Mankind Project and you committed fully to this beautiful woman that's giving you some support to shift, what's the, do you feel that as you're changing, the outer's changing?
I really don't know where we're headed. Sometimes I'm like, we're fully waking up and we're evolving and we're moving into the new paradigm. And then the next week I'm like, oh fuck, you know, things are messed up and the technology is really fucking with us, and nuclear war and you know, and I can get lost in the anxiety of just stuff.
Right. It's some nice points you bring up there, because there's this question, isn't there, this whole idea of new paradigm, and speak of new paradigms being something for, you know, for years, right? And, you know, this talk of like waking up, people waking up and so on. I mean, you know, if you go back 2,000 years ago, there were some people that were awake and some people that were not so awake, let's say, in terms of that, just using that terminology. So the question that keeps coming up for me around is, it's funny you mentioned about committing to yourself, committing to life, loving yourself, and just like really sort of making your own conscious decisions of what you want to contribute and what you want to do in the world, right? Like you said that you're going to talk about technology in a minute, but you're even like, that's moving into your music and how you express yourself through your music. Because just to say, that album that I listened to of yours was very much a, let's say, a statement. It's really much you singing your heart out around life. That's nice. Look at that. Look, the woman brings the light, and it wasn't Jesus. That's a bit better, isn't it? Thank you, beautiful Dara. So this the one thing that keeps coming up for me is the more I go into the space, the more I go into the silence, the more I go into the depth of who I am beyond the stories, beyond the noise, beyond all the ideas, the concepts, the paradoxes, the theories, and what may happen, may not happen. The world is near death. There's always an end of the world coming. There always has been, right? So for me, like the more I go into the silence, the more I go into that space, then everything else sort of drops away. And it's not that doesn't make me then feel that I want to do something that is beneficial to me and my relationship and the people and the world. It's almost like that's a natural thing that happens through that space, if that makes sense, without sounding too ambiguous. Yeah,
man. Yeah, fully. It's really nice to hear someone else say that, because my ego can get really caught up in like, oh, I'm the only one. Everybody else out there is just cluttering themselves up with stuff, and sometimes this feels like quite a lonely road, this path of awakening. Yeah. I don't know if you experienced that. Sometimes I'm like, man, I feel so alone in this. Yeah, it's just good to hear you say that.
It's a vital point for other men out there as well, because let's just talk from that place of man to man, just in that context, is that, I'm not just hearing men say that, I'm hearing a lot of men and women say that they feel that there's, a lot in that falling away, that sense of loneliness comes up, that sense that I'm on my own comes up, that sense that nobody else is actually, going through this does pop up. So it's like, it's a great point that you mentioned, and I appreciate that vulnerability of sharing that, because I think a lot of people are scared to say that because they want to have it all figured out, especially men.
Yeah, I'm really getting that it's vitally important that as people, whoever we are, men, women, or whatever, children, that we start creating space for ourselves, for our consciousness, whether that is however that takes shape, or whatever tools you use to create that space in your life, whether it's like meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's going for a walk in the countryside, or whether it's getting more extreme to like how you work yourself around technology. Because what I am really getting, I don't know if you agree with me here, Simon, but what I'm really getting, what my consciousness is telling me very, very, very clearly and strongly of late, even though I question it, is that all this technology and the devices and the sort of ever bombardment of like technology into our lives, I'm getting that it's kind of trying to take away our space, like our head space, our breathing space. And so what I'm getting is it's very important to not get caught in the sort of technology trap, basically, because my experience of having Wi-Fi in my house, which I just got rid of, is that it was just taking over. And me and my partner were online, all the time in the evenings, not connecting, not having enough breathing space in our lives. I don't know, we were becoming very dysfunctional, actually. And this is what I see out in the world when I go on the trains and stuff. I see everyone. It's kind of like a disease, isn't it? That's what it looks like to me. It's like a disease, except no one's fucking talking about it.